We got a fun one for you today. We are talking with former team manager Jake Schemel. After we talk about our vibe on this year's team, we get into what goes into the sausage for March Madness magic on the team side of things. And also, well, what was it like working for Tom Izzo all this time? Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you so much for kicking off your day with us here at Locked On Spartans as we get closer and closer to the real madness of postseason basketball, starting with the Big Ten tournament. Fun one for you today. Hey, we're going to talk with Jake Schemel. He was a manager for 2 seasons under Tom Izzo, one of those being the 2015 Final Four season. So before getting to that chat, hey, please rate, review, and subscribe to this here YouTube channel or podcast. Any way you digest this, thank you so much. And hey, let's stop wasting time. Let's get to our guy, Jake Schemel. Beyond honored to welcome on, that's right, former team manager for the 2013-14 season and the 2014-15 Final Four season, the one, the only Jake Schemel. Jake, how on earth are you doing, man? Thanks a lot for joining us.
Matt, I'm doing well. It's really coming full circle, seeing as how when I was in school, you were on the beat.
Yeah,
I was protecting the locker room doors, making sure that credentialed media members and upstanding individuals were in the locker room interviewing our players. And now here we are today as 2 basically Twitter personalities who say some very irrational things on our timeline to the public. But it's wonderful to be here, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, for sure. So credentialed media, or if you just wore horrible flannel shirts and just the worst pair of shoes of all time like me, that also got you in the locker room every once in a while. So it was nice. But the career's been on a downward trajectory ever since. But hey, we're having fun, and that's what matters. Jake, I brought you on today for a few reasons. One, hey, I would love to talk about what goes into the sausage in March Madness from a team manager perspective, everything like that. But we got to address something first. This is like a week or 2 ago. You laid out like 13-ish games that had to happen for Michigan State to get the double bye. And when you sent this out, a little bit of like, wow, is Jake really that bored? That is a lot of research. None of this is going to happen, but hey, good on you. Lo and behold, Jake, it happened. MSU got the double bye. And now you are here on a podcast where we jinx everything to oblivion. I could say that Tom Izzo was going to coach Friday's game, and Thursday evening, he will announce his retirement. Like that's right. That's how bad it's gotten here. So we brought you on here to kind of balance us out here. Do you have any predictions for the upcoming Big Ten tournament that you just want to set in stone right now here? Please.
Oh man, that's you're really putting me on the spot there, because that was I think it was 9 games, and I had seriously considered parlaying it just for the hell of it.
Sure.
But I said, there's no reason to. I'm going to parlay it. I'm going to it's going to be plus 100,000 odds. I'm going to just put $5 on it, and the first game's going to lose. Like there's just no way. Yep. And lo and behold, 8 games in, I'm like, why did I not bet on a single one of these games? So I'm right there with you from a jinx perspective, but no, it was a lot of fun. I'm very proud of this team being able to get a double bye. That's very big from a manager perspective that we'll kind of get into, and just from a player perspective of kind of how the Big Ten tournament works. But I like our draw a lot. I mean, I don't love having to play Purdue in the semifinals, but the big thing with that, it is very hard to play a team 3 times and beat them 3 times. And I think one thing that we've seen, there are 2 ways to beating Purdue, and that's if you can get Edey into foul trouble. And while Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have been a huge reason to their success this year, they're both freshmen. And I wouldn't say that they've struggled in the spotlight, but they don't have a lot of in-game experience and end-game experience when it comes to, we saw it, they struggled a lot towards the end. And tournament time, and even the Big Ten tournament, is vastly different from what the NCAA tournament will be. And so I really like that matchup against them. And I think we can strongly I think we have a very good chance of getting ourselves into Sunday for that championship game, but it will really just depend on what team shows, because we've seen over the last couple of weeks, we can be a lights out team scoring 90 plus points, or we can be a team that's
Correct.
defensive and gritty and, winning games 50, 45, different things like that. So it'll just be if we can, I think it'll all stem from the guard play with our trio of Akins, Hogard, and Walker. And I think if AJ really just takes it from a distributive standpoint and lets Walker continue to do his thing, I think those two really mesh well together and can definitely get us into the championship game on Sunday.
Hey, you already laid out the double bye for us, so there is the roadmap to Sunday. There you have it. So lock it in, set it in stone. Go get MSU plus 600 at FanDuel right now. I want to go back to that comment that you made, though, that the double bye is massive for the team, and the easy observation to pick out is, hey, 3 games is better than putting 4 games on the legs. But other than that, what is the big difference between the single bye and the double bye, whether it be from just the team perspective, a team manager perspective? How important is starting Friday rather than Thursday?
It just gives you another day to prepare. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes from just like a manager perspective. I mean, one thing is we'll have a conference room where we actually tape out a whole court, and then we're doing walkthroughs and everything like that. During the season, when we're scouting teams, we're doing anything and everything to learn about that team. And that's from an offensive and a defensive perspective, watching all of their plays, both defense, looking for calls, everything like that, scouting players, knowing, okay, if Hunter Dickinson's on the left block, he is going 2 dribbles, maybe a little shimmy and then back up over his right shoulder. Whereas if he's on the right block, he's going 1 dribble and spinning back to get to that left hand. I mean, we are monitoring everything. And on this short of a turnaround, you really just look for tendencies in their last 5 games. Okay, who did they ride the hot hand? What is he doing? You're riding much more off of just tendencies of a specific player. You're obviously still knowing all of tendencies of that team, but just from having to not prepare for another game is very huge, just because, especially with the Big Ten tournament, you're going back-to-back days. NCAA tournament's a little bit different where you have a day off, you can really get to know a team. But, if you're playing on Thursday and you win and then you play on Friday and you're playing a team that sometimes you only play a team one time in the Big Ten. And that's not a team that you've played since the beginning of January, or sometimes even now with the way the Big Ten schedule is structured, it can be the beginning of December. And that makes it very tough just from a scouting perspective. There's so many different things that go into the tournament too. It's not a true home game for anyone, maybe till Saturday or Sunday, because you have 9 to 10 teams that are buying. I think they do them in just like 3 or 4 game passes that they used to for the tournament, but you're buying sessions. You're not buying, for your specific game. So no team really has home field advantage. You're playing on a court. I mean, most kids have never played at, majority of the courts that the Big Ten tournament is held at. It's a different ball. I mean, that's a huge thing that is different. Usually you play to the home team's ball when you're on the road in the Big Ten, but being in the tournament now, it's a different ball. So there's a lot of different factors, and just, I think, having a rest off of the Big Ten season, but also just more time to prepare for a lot of different variables. Kids are going to have their parents in town. There's just different things to factor in for the tournament, and having an extra day to kind of prepare for all of that, I think is really vital, no matter what the draw is. To have to win 3 games is a lot better than having to play 4 back-to-back days, especially when you don't know where you're going to travel that following weekend for the tournament.
And be right back with Jake Schemel, but first I just need to talk all your ears off about FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the most wonderful time of the year to get in on the action at the #1 sportsbook in America. And hey, if you're going to be wagering on March Madness this month, well, do it with FanDuel, because as a new customer, you will get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's right. That is in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, you're getting 1,000 smackaroos back from Mr. FanDuel himself. Gang, we could talk about conference tournament lines. Your Spartans are plus 650 right now on FanDuel. If we're feeling spicy about that, mosey on over and wager a few shekels on them. FanDuel Sportsbook. It's fast, secure, super easy to use, and best of all, you get paid quickly by Mr. FanDuel. You are not waiting for days at a time, waiting for money to hit your account. Nope, that is getting in your pocket as soon as possible. So don't miss the chance to get in on your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official betting partner of the NBA. And it's why, 19 of the 23 Big Ten tournament winners have had a double bye. And, well, it's also why Tom Izzo has won more of them than any other coach, because he does have a good formula going on. And so, for example, like Friday, and I know that you were a manager 7-8 years ago, but okay, it's still Tom Izzo. And I think that a lot of this is still the same that it may have been. So things might be a little different here. But for sake of conversation, MSU tips off 2:30-ish. The game before them, let's call it Purdue versus Michigan, because there's no way that Michigan can lose again to a team that's as bad as Rutgers. That would be completely embarrassing. So let's assume it's Purdue versus Michigan. What are you guys doing during that game? Is there a set of eyes on that game? And are there already people back at the conference room that's taped up, already kind of in the weeds for whatever's going on there? So, like, what's that 24 hours like from Friday to Saturday?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. So there's usually anywhere from, let's call it, we have roughly 12 managers. For Big Ten tournament and NCAA tournament, you only have one on the bench, and that's because they regulate the amount of seats that go or amount of chairs that are on sidelines for benches. So we usually only have one manager. The rest are in the stands, but we'll dedicate people to scouting individual teams. And there will be somebody watching, actually probably doing a live breakdown of the Purdue-Michigan game and breaking it down to each team, and then having a folder ready for either team. And then that way, after our game, if we win, we know that, hey, everything's already lined up, everything's good to go. And it works the same way for the NCAA tournament. And it's actually a lot of fun, but it's also very tough, because if you're going into Saturday and, let's say we're playing Texas, and before us, Kansas and Baylor, I don't know how we're paired with 3 Big 12 teams, but just, they're playing before, like, you're probably doing 10, 11 hours of work for one team that is literally just getting thrown out the door. You have to be prepared for any, anything possible. So just for that exact instance that you said, I mean, it will be Purdue versus Michigan before us on Friday, tipping off at noon. So they'll have, probably 10-ish plus hours. Thankfully, they've played both teams relatively recently, but they will have a full file ready to go. And whoever loses, that team is just deleted. That file is deleted. Wow. And so a lot of work goes away. But I mean, you need to be fully prepared, because it's not like we win and say, okay, now we're going to prepare for all of this stuff, where it has to all be prepared. Now, it would be a little bit different if it were switched. Say we're the 5 o'clock game, and then we're playing the winner of the 9 o'clock game. Again, everything is going to be lined up, and then you're just doing a live breakdown of the game in sports code that we use to break down the film, or at least we did when I was there, and then sending it off to the respective coach. Usually we sign a specific, so like going into Purdue, Michigan, let's say Wojcik would have Michigan and Monty would have Purdue.
Okay.
Everything about that team. So, hey, Wojcik, Michigan won. Here's everything you need to know what they did from that game. Here's the scout. Go from there.
Man. And so at the end of this weekend coming up, obviously Selection Sunday, and you've had 2 very unique experiences with Selection Sunday the 2 years you were there. 2014, very joyous, very celebratory. 2014, they beat Michigan. Okay, Selection Sunday is probably a hoot and a half for the team. 2015, lose a tight overtime game against Wisconsin, but still in the championship. So you're still like maybe yeah, well, I'm not here to talk about that or the missed out of bounds call that they had. Hey, no,
you don't remember it either. I'm glad to see you don't hold a grudge on that. So yeah.
No, I'm over Jake. I'm an adult. Okay, I'm over it. It's water under the bridge. Please, we're
I definitely was
healthy
not
podcast.
Invited to Zach Showalter's wedding because his now wife swam for my brother, and I definitely did not bring up that call to Josh Gosser. I did not, because I was, a mature 27-year-old adult at that time, and it was water under the bridge. Definitely did not bring it up.
We only do mental sanity on this podcast, so that's good.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
that's good that we're aligned
here.
Our
mental well-being. We don't think about anything in the past.
No,
none of that.
A game played by children doesn't keep us up for months, if not years at a time. It's fine. It's okay. It was a fair and square game in 2015. But regardless, You're probably in the locker room. So this is 2 unique perspectives. But for Selection Sunday, are you as a manager even allowed to even digest for 5 minutes and celebrate with the team that you guys had? Or like once those 2 teams flash, like Michigan State and blank, like is it just, okay, time to go in the film room, time to start crunching? Or what is that fallout like after Selection Sunday is rattled off.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we will, because I was able to be in the championship game both years, and so what we did both of those years is we split the group in two. We actually sent half the managers home before the game. Some had already just kind of maybe stayed back due to classes or just kind of schedule obligations. But we try to have a couple people back in the office so that they can start downloading stuff. We do have people kind of waiting in a room just because. So 14 is a perfect example. We stay in Indianapolis. We watch it at the hotel. We, celebrate. You get the whole shot that you always see of them announcing teams. 15 is vastly different. We get on a bus. We're pulling up hotspots, trying to download everything that we can. But just from an easy logistical standpoint, we send half the people home to start downloading games of that prospective opponent. And then, so let's say Selection Sunday is 4. They started at 4 o'clock. You'd probably know your bid by 9:45 p.m. How they've been doing it the last couple of years of just drawing out the huge selection process. It's, 12 hours straight of work. I mean, the 2 years that I was there, we realistically knew by 6 p.m. We were hopefully getting home the next morning by 6 a.m. Just because you are, again, so let's say you go in and you're the 7 seed, you're pulling up breakdown of usually the last 5 games if you can. So we try to do the previous 5 games, and then we'll highlight if we're playing like a smaller mid-major, maybe earlier in the year they played Kentucky or a Michigan or another Big Ten school. We'll go back and break down that game as well. But you're breaking down, so if we're the 7 seed, we're breaking down the 10 seed, and then we're also breaking down that 2 and 15 seed, all of their work as well. And then we're also going to start being proactive on who's on the other side of the bracket too. Just realistically looking, hey, we've got a pretty good draw. We know stuff about these teams. They've played previous Big Ten teams or previous teams that we played throughout the season, and we can start pulling scout on them. But it is, it's just a madhouse. It really is just 10 to 12 hours of continuous work, just downloading film, breaking it down. There'll probably be 2 to 3 managers that break it down into offense, defense. Then there's another 2 to 3 that would go into each one for a prospective team and look at offense and call out all their plays. And then defensively doing the same thing, here are their tendencies. And then our grad assistants would probably do a lot of the personnel breakdown from there, breaking down specific players. But yeah, it's a lot of fun because it's just a huge rush, but it also is a very long night.
Those are well-deserved trips to Rick's in April when you guys finally get to end the season and unwind and, take the edge off, if you will. So, for example, like 2015, MSU is the 7 seed. Virginia's the 2. You play them next game, so you're probably looking ahead to them. But in the same region, Villanova was number 1. Like, are you already doing film on them that early, or do you at least, wait till that first weekend goes away until you start diving into who could be at the other side of the bracket?
Usually wait till the first weekend, if anything, with one, just because, again, with one being on the top, we would probably look at who would realistically be from that next bracket above us. And again, we would more just try to look into the season and see if they played anyone that we would already have film on. Like if they played a Big Ten, because with Big Ten, we'll scout all of their games. We scout all of our Big Ten opponents' games no matter what. So we'll already have some of their, at least offense and defense stuff. So we'll just have kind of files created and everything like that. But we really won't start doing too much film work. Again, we'll just probably break it down into an offensive, defensive perspective so that, hey, when we get there, we do know we've got 20-ish% of the game, work done, because that's the toughest thing. I mean, you're watching a game, you're watching 2 hours of the game, just hitting start for offense, stop for this possession, start for this possession, stop for that possession. We watch it at, a fast forwarded speed, but that is definitely the part that takes the most, is just trying to get the offense defense segment broke down. And then it goes off to a couple different managers that, hey, this person's watching all offense, and makes it a little bit easier from there. But we try not to look too far ahead, just because it can be a lot of work that potentially gets wasted. So.
Sure. Very understandable. But yeah, I didn't know that you guys even jump even a little bit that had a schedule. It's fascinating. I mean, so far actually, hold on. How are you doing on time, by the way? I know I said 15 minutes and we were at the 17-minute mark. Are you okay? I do this with I do this way more guests than I should. I'm the worst host of all time. I just completely end up lying about how much time I need from them. But this is, yeah, if you're fine, I got a lot more questions if you're fine for another 10 minutes.
Shoot 'em off.
So in 2015, the team was kind of just a middling Big Ten team, if you will. They go into the Big Ten tournament. They bang out a few good games. They go to overtime against a really, really good Wisconsin team. When did you, as a manager, start to have the hunch that this team is going to be okay in March? Was it that Big Ten tournament? Can you, as a manager, start to sense that in the practice room even before that begins? Or the end of the 2015 season, when did you start to feel the magic in the air?
Big Ten tournament was definitely a big one. I would say the one that really rattled it home was actually the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. We were playing Virginia, who was the 2 seed. We had beat them last year. There was definitely some animosity from that game. You know, guys like Justin Anderson were back in different things, but that was a game. I can't remember how many. I mean, I think Trav had, what was it, 11 of our first 15 or 15
87
of our first points.
87 points. He was amazing.
No, and he had that hot start. And so, again, there's one manager sitting on the end of the bench. The rest of us are sitting in the stands. And he went off. I think he had that dunk to give him like the first 7 or 9 points, something like that. Virginia called a timeout, and he turned to the crowd, and we were sitting with the rest of us managers were sitting with all the family, and his dad was sitting right behind us, and he looked at him and he just said, I told you, and just pumped his chest and went back to the huddle. And that was like,
okay.
He really is here. And I mean, that's what you need. You need guard play. That is what gets teams to the Final Four. That is what helps teams win championships down at the end of the season. And so it was one of those things of, I mean, halfway through the season, it was, I mean, because we lost to Texas Southern.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's right. That was that year. Oh man.
Yep. Over Christmas break. I don't think I can say it live on air, but just that practice that we had the next day was one of the most unforgettable experiences. It was just, we shot free throws. We didn't even really practice, but it was just, I think, like a 2.5-hour conversation just around life. And after losing a basketball game, it was the most interesting experience I've ever had. But that season truly was full of highs and lows. And then we get to the Big Ten tournament. Hey, it's very similar to this year's team. This year's team did a better job of kind of finishing out the year, but just, hey, we're in a good spot. We're most likely in the tournament. Let's just get a few wins. Hey, we make it to the championship. Good. We're solidified. Let's just get a good draw. And then we get to that Virginia game, and Trav really started to take over. And it's like, hey, we're in a really good spot. And then we go, on Syracuse to play Oklahoma first before taking on Louisville and taking them down. So, yeah, that was definitely, I'll never forget that. I got goosebumps, just him turning to his dad and just saying, I told you, and went on from there.
Spot on. Do you think that this year's team should have lost to Brown then, the way that year's team lost to Texas Southern? Do you think they should have taken a dive against like Buffalo perhaps too? Or
no.
Is that okay? All right.
No.
That's fascinating.
Just losing to a MAC team really just, I think, would ruin a team season. So
it's hard to bounce back from. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think that would do us very well. So,
no, it would be really almost embarrassing too when you really think about it. But again, that doesn't really happen in the Big Ten a lot anymore.
Yep.
In that 2000, I got to talk about the Elite Eight game against Louisville, one of my favorite games of all time. How many years were shaved off your life as a team manager? And did you ever think that this just isn't our day? Because I thought that a few times, and namely when that. What was he? A 12% free throw shooter on Louisville came up to the line and it bounced halfway up the arena scoreboard and it dropped in the hoop. It's like, oh, okay, divine intervention. Like God wants Louisville to win. Like, or were you cool and calm, collected the entire time as a manager?
No, I do. People can just go look at my Twitter timeline. I do not do a very good job of keeping my composure or hiding it or anything like that.
Perfect.
And I mean, just that 3-game stretch. I mean, we go from, again, beating a 2-seed Louisville that back-to-back. I mean, the year before they had, Joe Harris. They had Malcolm Brogdon. They had Parentes. I mean, they had such a phenomenal team. And then the following year, we beat them. And then we go in, we beat Buddy Hield in Oklahoma. Been a consistent pro and done a phenomenal job in the league. And then it's like we get to Louisville. We play Terry Rozier, Montrezl Harrell, who is the scariest basketball player I've ever seen in human form. Terrified me. And it was just one of those things like, I mean, hey, we're making a run, but something's got to give at some point. Like, I mean, we're a very good team, but we are playing future NBA pros. And I mean, at this time, Brandon Dawson's doing a very good job of, having a really good run to help him get drafted. But I mean, we're starting Marvin Clark at the 4. I love Marv. He's great. But I mean, we were just in a very tough matchup spot with those 4 games. And going into that one, had to have taken 10 years plus off my life. And just, I mean, the shots that Bryn was able to hit, the putback that BJ hit, Marvin had a few putbacks as well. And I mean, Gavin Schilling did a phenomenal job at the 5. I mean, that was truly just an all-out team effort that game, led by Trice. Denzel had that wraparound pass that was at his feet to hit that big 3 from the corner right by our bench. So, no, that game was just an incredible experience. And it was just that, I mean, it hits and it's just like, I mean, we're going to the Final Four again. It was a team that we thought might break, very similar to this year's team. Is this going to be the team that breaks Tom Izzo's tournament stretch? And they're going to a Final Four.
Look at that. And there is obviously, a lot going on at the Final Four. There's a lot of hullabaloo, a lot of pageantry around it. What was like some of your best memories from the 2015 Final Four? Maybe not the game. The refs blew that game for us. Let's get that on record right now. That was all officiating. That's how close it was. But outside the game though, like what is there to look forward to, like just for the team or the team managers that, you're not going to forget anytime soon?
Yeah. So, the NCAA tournament is just a very special thing in general. So during the season, we'll only travel probably 3 or 4 managers a trip. Sometimes we'll take more, just kind of depending on how things are going. Big Ten tournament, we usually try to fly everyone down. But NCAA tournament, everyone's kind of going with us. And then, to just experience that as a group with the Final Four is a lot of fun. They have, it's a big show. They have, a big welcome party for all 4 of the teams. They have the huge Final Four convention that they let all of the teams go through. So I think the year that we went, they had in Indianapolis. So I think they had a mock NFL combine. So managers, were running 40s against, like Duke player. I can't remember. I did some like football competition, I think with like that Tyus Jones did and different things like that. So it was just really cool. I mean, yes, these are athletes and I mean, they're put on the highest pedestal, but it was literally just college kids in a huge convention having a lot of fun. And that was very cool to see. But just definitely the camaraderie of, it's interesting in college basketball of Final Four is definitely the goal. And obviously you want to win the championship, but just there is that sense of accomplishment. Like, hey, we hung a banner. We're at a Final Four. I don't think there's anything like, hey, let's just coast. We made it here. Obviously we want to win that game, get to the championship and hang a championship banner. But there is definitely something of, one of the Final Four freaking teams in the country like that. I mean, we just won the hardest tournament in all of sports, in my opinion, of just it's losing, you're out. You don't know who you're playing and everything like that. And so just being able to experience that as a group and with all the guys and just really as a huge kind of pat on the back for all of you, the work that you did. And I mean, Coach Izzo put it the best before going back to that Elite Eight game versus Louisville. It's one of the speeches that I'll always remember. And he said, he didn't say a ton and didn't really get into too much basketball or how much, you need to do this, you need to do that. It was give me 2 hours of work for a lifetime of memories. And that's what he sent off the game for the Louisville game. And it was the simplest words that spoke the truest meaning of just give me 2 hours of work, and I will give you a lifetime of memories. And it happened. It came true with the Final Four, and they truly are lifetime memories for all of us. So
2 hours and 15 minutes if you include overtime. So really, the team dug deep. That's awesome, though.
10 years of my life. 10 years of my life, truly, in terms of just
kind of worth it.
How much
though.
I aged, absolutely.
Right. Between that Elite Eight and the Elite Eight against Duke, I think I'm out of here at the age of 49, probably. But fine. That's what I had a good time.
I think I would have had a heart attack if I was an actual manager who stands for that Duke game.
Just sweating profusely through every shirt that you've ever. Oh God. First of all, thanks a lot for your time, man. This has been great. Yeah. Always great chatting with you, especially right here in Locked On Spartans. That's what I'm talking about. But I got one more question, and it's my broadest question for the end. Worked for 2 years under Tom Izzo. Working under Tom Izzo was blank. Take that how you want it. I know. Hot seat time.
No. It's but just the first word that comes to mind is just incredible, because it's incredible from every way, from incredibly bad to incredibly well, because there were times that it's a 4-hour practice of just straight standing. There's times where we don't even get to practice for the first 3 hours because he has the guys in the locker room having a conversation. But it's also been, incredible because of all the experiences that I got to have of being able to win a Big Ten tournament, being able to go to a Final Four, being able to celebrate, senior day with my family and have all of them there, to be able to go back to games, bring my son, and bring him there and have him, give him hopefully the experiences later in life that I was able to have, and, introduce my wife and my family to my Spartan family. That is all made possible because of him, but he treats the managers no different than the players. And it's one of those things that he will be your biggest critic, but he will always be there for you whenever you need it. I'll never forget. So out of school, I chose not to go into sports. I just entered into the professional world, and I was about 2 years in, and I was gravely missing the sports world. And I had actually been contemplating on applying for a job at the University of Wisconsin. I believe it was assistant director of ops for their men's or women's team. And I had shot him a text and, asked if he could give me a call whenever he got the chance. And he gave me a call that night, and we talked for an hour. And we walked through everything from what I made at my current job, what I was going to make at that job, what, did I have student loans? Did I have expenses? How was I going to do this? I just started seeing, my wife, she was my girlfriend at that time, but it was just family things, everything like that. So truly just incredible from that perspective of, he's not a coach, he's not a mentor, he's, a family member. It's, you go back to all the terrible things that had happened last month at the university. But when he said, I don't love the place, I live the place. Like he is Michigan State, and he wears that on his heart, and he will do, he will drop whatever he needs to at the, drop of a pin to be able to help out, whether it's a former secretary, former manager, former player. And so that's why, he puts you through hell, but he gives you anything and everything you need to in return. And that's why I say it's just an incredible experience.
That's why, like outsiders like myself love Izzo, because, he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. And speaking with, a guy that was on the inside like you, this only hammers every point home that we've known about Izzo, whether it's, the March Magic, what goes into making the sausage, to, who he is after you leave the program, which I guess it's kind of silly to say, because it sounds like you never truly do leave the program. You're always part of it.
No, so, and that's something I'll never forget it. I believe it was our 2016 reunion. It would have been against Maryland when we wore the neon uniforms.
Oh yeah.
And Costello picked up coach and everything in that game. Pre-COVID, he used to have the reunion dinners at his house post games, and so, we were there celebrating, drinking, having a lot of fun. And game day was there that day. And all of a sudden we just turn around and, like Seth Greenberg, Jay Billis, all those guys are there. And we start just shooting with Jay Billis, and we had talked to him, and he goes, Duke has a brotherhood. They're close.
Right.
They understand it, but nothing like what Michigan State has to offer. And I think it's something, people, we always, share it on social media. We talk about, like Michigan State's a family. No, it really is. Like, he created that family and has done such a good job helping growing it, helping maintaining it, and into truly something that I think no place else in the country has to offer.
I mean, couldn't have said it better, any better myself. Look at that, man. So, Jake, anything else you want to say? You've been killing it here. Like, this has been your show today. So, anything else that you want to say before we turn these cameras off and go enjoy the rest of the week and prepare for a Big Ten tournament run that you've promised ends on Sunday? Anything else you want to add?
Nope. I'm just looking forward to who we'll get to play on Friday. I think we'll have a great slate of games starting on Friday with that Purdue-Michigan game at noon. So I'm really just looking forward to who we have to play and starting that run to get us to Sunday and get that 7th Big Ten tournament championship.
Amen. Here. That's what I'm talking about. Gang, we will be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking more Michigan State hoops. I can't promise it'll be better than this conversation, but hey, we're going to try our best to make it just as good. Keep it here. We're going to be here all week. Whenever Michigan State plays, we're going to go into the weekend with these episodes. We are going to grind just like the team managers do, just like the players do, just like the coaches do. Until then, love you all. Go Green.
Go White.